Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we are going to go over a topic that was highly requested, which is signs that you're a desirable man, even if you don't realize it, using research. The research will be in the description box. I understand it's not available to everybody. It's available to me because I go through my school. However, I do try to get a mixture of things that are available and versus not, because sometimes the research I like is unfortunately unavailable, but I still feel like that information is helpful to you guys. And I would feel like I'm wasting some of your time if I didn't add that stuff into the video. Just because you guys can't see it doesn't mean I can't give you some of that information. That's how I feel. Let me know how you guys feel about that. But let's go ahead and jump right in. The first one is a physical attribute. And I think it's really important, actually, because a lot of you guys were asking more physical stuff. And this study was done in 2017. And we saw that men who have physical traits that signal health or strength tends to be more attractive and desirable to their female counterpart or just women in general. A lot of women in this particular study showed that they were more visually drawn to men whose bodies suggest strength and health. But in the study, they mentioned like a V-shape torso. So it's like more broader shoulders and more broader chest. And I guess a more narrow waistline. Is that what that area is called? We saw that. Another aspect that we saw in the study is upper body muscularity. I would think it was arms. It wasn't too clear, but larger arms was pretty much more emphasized in the study as well, because it probably signifies strength, because a lot of times a lot of strength that you're going to need is using your arms. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. I think most of you guys know that, but I feel like it is helpful that there is research about that. Interesting enough, some part of this research uses we're kind of tracking the eye movement of these ladies, whereas women would literally look more likely or just pay more attention or be more visually attracted to men who look like this. Like they would actually glance and stay there and just stare. Really interesting. So I thought that was cool. The next one is something that makes a man desirable, and maybe you guys can relate to this one as well. This research was done a little older, but I liked it. It was I think it was 1989, so a lot older, but there's a lot of good stuff in this one. We can see that women actually prefer men who are able to keep their promises, who are reliable, or what some people say can be counted on. This research, I thought it was interesting because they mentioned it almost like a dependable character, to which was shown across cultures. And the reason why a lot of women like this is it seems like women tend to be more commitment forward, not all the time, but a lot of them might be more thinking a little bit more long term from a biological standpoint. I won't speak to that. I don't study biology, but also from a psychological standpoint, it allows them to feel like their emotional resources are more secured because you'll be able to protect her emotionally, you'll be able to understand her. And so a lot of women sometimes look at things subconsciously from a long-term perspective, and somebody who's more reliable or able to keep promises can actually protect her emotional well-being. And so that's why subconsciously a lot of women like dependable partners, especially if she's mentally healthy. Like a mentally healthy, mentally stable lady is going to want somebody who's dependable, right? She's not going to want someone who's like sporadic or here and there, okay? Now, of course, there are some women who are a little bit more unhealthy, truthfully, and they somehow want somebody who's unreliable so that they can make them reliable. So she still wants him reliable, but she just wants to be in control of that reliability because it makes her feel like she's the only one who could change him, some sort of self-worth complex. I'm not going to lie and say that's not true. I see it all the time, but I just wanted to give you that information as well. The next one is very interesting because I think a lot of women admit this, and the study was done in 2006. It's that she really likes somebody, or people think men are really desirable when there's someone who's genuine, even if it's against the norm. So it's like they kind of go against the grain. And actually, we see this in so many different ways. I see it as more as likely that he's more of like a leader. I think that's where it comes from. I could be wrong. A lot of time with the research, it shows that it's more linked to individuals who are trustworthy and more desirable for like intimate relationships because you feel like he's safe in an intimate space, maybe in the bedroom, things like that. But we also can see that somebody who's genuine, even if it's against the norm, it shows that he's fearless to some extent because he's not trying to fit in with everybody. And so it already shows that he has that more dominant type of personality. I believe that's where some of it comes from, okay? Authentic individuals in general are perceived as more trustworthy, both genders. And so I found that pretty interesting. Again, that research was 2006. The next one is humor, but it's a specific type of humor. It is, if you are a desirable man, you likely have humor that leans more intellectual, okay? Humor production, I would say, I guess, is actually associated with intelligence, but it's also associated with being able to modify yourself in a social situation without modifying who you are. So you're able to modify how you communicate in social situations, which actually does increase what some people in research might call mating success, because you're able to adapt without sacrificing who you are. And how you're doing that is you're using humor, right? You're leaning into different versions of intellectual humor depending on the crowd you're talking about, right? If you're with people who are more into finance, maybe you'll use more communication styles that are common with folks who understand finance in a more intellectual way. So you are able to read the room. If you're in a room full of, I don't know, women who do yoga, you might make some sort of humorous joke that people who do yoga understand. And so you're able to modify and create some sort of way using your humor to kind of magnetize who you are, and people are more drawn to you. I think that's really interesting. This research was done in 2000, but I will say there's plenty of particular research on this one. We see it pretty often, right? Where somebody who is humorous, sometimes that can almost, I want to say, overcompensate, but sometimes we can see someone who's just so funny and interesting. A lot of women admit that sometimes they prefer that over someone who's just attractive, like physically attractive. This is a very, very common thing. If you are this type of guy, very likely you already know you're desirable, but still, if you don't, really common. A lot of people, like a lot of women like men like that, okay? And the next one is actually that you're generous and caring towards other people. The reason why this is very attractive to a lot of women is because we were mentioning some women, a lot of them, especially if they're more healthy, they look at things from a more long-term standpoint, to which if you're generous and caring, it means that you're not going to harm her, you're not going to hurt her, she's going to be safe, even in the bedroom with you, right? A lot of times subconsciously that's some of their fears. If they are intimate with you, are you going to respect them? But if you're generous and caring towards others, that can also apply in the bedroom, if that makes sense. It can also apply to how you treat other people, and it makes her feel like you're going to be there for her if she needs you. It also makes her feel like you might be generous with your emotional assets as well. You're not going to just withhold your emotions, or you're not going to only show anger. You're going to still show happiness or kindness, or you're more willing to adjust and be more compromising towards her if needed. I'm not saying compromise your whole life, but I am saying you're more comfortable adjusting. Those are some of the traits that you are probably a desirable man and you don't realize it. Let's summarize it and then we can wrap the video up, okay? So traits that you might have that actually makes you a desirable man and you don't realize it is you might have physical traits that signal strength or health. You are probably a dependable person. You are someone who is genuinely yourself, even if it's against the norm. Your humor tends to lean intellectual, and you tend to be generous and caring towards others. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.